Hello, friendos. So we are back on again. We're going to take a look at the fourth reading section on this ACT 2015 through 2016. This is going to be the last section. This is called the natural science section. Again, you don't have to know anything about natural science, but let's go ahead and take a look about what we got here. So this is the Jaws That Jump. It's all about ants. So remember, if it's your preferred method, you can always take a look at this PDF. Just look it up online. Take a skim through. We're going to try to do it without an initial read and see how well we can do, right? So if I'm looking at the primary purpose of the passage, admittedly, I do not know yet what that's going to be, right? We haven't taken a look at it, so we're going to come back to this. Okay, here we go. Sentence in lines 73 through 75 in the last sentence, so this should be two examples, are examples of the author's rhetorical techniques. So let's look at the last sentence in 73 through 75. So, such a serendipitous event would have been a rare instance in which banging one's head against the ground got good results. Whackity schmackity doo. Very funny, right? In the wild, gangs of defending ants team up to attack hostile strangers, sending them head over heels out of the nest. Okay. Head over heels, banging one's head against the ground. What is this all about? Weaving sarcasm into a casual and playful article. Neither of those really sound sarcastic to me. It's not like he means the other thing than what he's saying. Interjecting a lighthearted tone into a primary technical article. I would say lighthearted is fine. Not sure whether this is technical or not. Integrating a slightly combative tone into an article that mostly praises two scientists' work. I wouldn't say that's combative either. Definitely not the last bit, right? Incorporating in personal anecdotes into an okay, these are not personal anecdotes at all. So even though we're not too sure about the primarily technical part, because it's a science one, we can kind of think it will be. So let's go ahead and circle G. If I were actually doing this on the real test, maybe I would go and just get an idea of what the rest of the article is about at some point, or skip this and come back, right? As it's used in line 81 through 82, the phrase well-defended prey most nearly refers to prey that. So let's see, 81 through 82. So several lineages of trap giants have independently hit upon the tactic of storing energy in their jaws to penetrate well-defended prey. So they're talking about penetrating this prey. So literally somehow cutting through them. So have a hard outer shell seems good. Attack with a lethal bite, no. Travel attack in groups. No indication of the prey being well defended in that sense. Or move quickly, no. Right, they actually have to go through. Note that although the ants attack with the lethal bite, the prey are not the ones that attack the lethal bite. So this is a classic multiple choice answer option. It's like a reverse relationship. I'm trying to mess you up with that. The passage makes clear that the main source of the speed of the jaws of the trapped giant. Okay. Source of the speed is a pretty good keyword thing here. Oh, and I happened to accidentally come to it here. Key to the jaw's speed, and their even more amazing acceleration is that the release comes from stored energy produced by the strong but slow muscles of the jaw. Okay, it's stored energy. Again, they talk about this archer. They're storing up the energy. Blah! Okay. Storage. Energy storage. Ease of movement? Not really. Continuous steady firing of the jaw's mandibles. It's kind of a weird phrase anyways. Light weight of the jaw in relation to the ant's body weight? Not at all. Release of the energy stored by the muscles of the jaw. That's the one that gets that whole meaning there. Yeah. The author uses the analogy of trying to grab popcorn as it pops in order to describe the trapped giant ant's ability to. So again, popcorn is a pretty strong keyword. I'm pretty sure they're not going to talk a lot about popcorn here, right? Okay, I see popcorn here. I already know that Katchin O'Bowery, which I assume is going to be this whatever bug they're talking about, was like grabbing for popping popcorn, and very hot popcorn at that, because painful sting goes with an ant trap jaw's bite. They bounced around in a dizzying frenzy and propelled themselves many times their body length when biologists or smaller intruders approached them. So clearly this has to do with them bouncing all around. Note that probably I was a little bit uncertain about what they actually meant. By the time I got to this, it was like grabbing popcorn. If you ever get a little bit like, well, that doesn't answer the question, just try to read the next sentence. And if that doesn't work, the sentence after that, once you get 3 sentences out, it starts to be like, okay, maybe you're actually looking in the wrong place. But so the key here is that these ants are zip-zapping around, not generating heat with raw movements, not moving to high ground to attack prey, right? They might be moving to high ground, but not to attack prey. Attack intruders by tossing them out of the nest. No, again, this is about the ants moving, not the intruders. It's frantic bouncing. One main purpose of the last paragraph is to suggest that unlike their bounce or defense jump, the trap jaw ant's escape jump may have arisen through. Okay, so it's in the last paragraph, so that's strong enough for me to say, alright, let's look there. So unlike their bounce or defense jump, the escape jump may have arisen through. So we're talking about the escape jump here. Let's see, blah, blah, blah. So bounce or defense, there's that part. But the high escape jump, with jaws aimed directly at the ground, must have arisen from a different, perhaps accidental kind of behavior. So maybe the escape jump arose by accident. So let's see, seeing accident here? Accidental behavior, right? I bet that one of these is actually referring to the bounce or defense jump. Bounce or defense jump could have arisen out of attempts to bite intruders, right? So that's the F answer. That's a trap answer. You know, that it's classic, right? That they introduce a concept and say, don't look at this concept, but of course they've already introduced it. It's like the old thought experiment. Okay, I want you guys to focus very carefully and in your mind, clear it out, and now don't think of a white elephant. You know, just by saying that, of course, a white elephant pops into your mind. So they're using this human psychology trick against you here. As it's used in line 31, the word domain most nearly means, let's see, 31, the biomechanics of energy storage is the domain of Sheila N. Patek and Joseph E. Bio, both biomechanists at the University of California, Berkeley. Okay, the domain, so biomechanics is the domain, that's like her subject area of focus, right? Area of expertise, I mean, there it is. It's definitely got to be that. Living space, taxonomic category, local jurisdiction. None of these are going to be correct, although they are all reasonable uses of the word domain. The passage points to which of the following is a characteristic of the trap jaw's mandibles that prevents the ants from harming themselves from their powerful bite. Okay, so prevents the ants from harming themselves. Let's see. Mandibles, powerful bite, these are all the sorts of things we're looking for. Let's see. High speed. Doesn't talk about how they're safe. I remember reading this. This was talking about how fast it was, right? They also observed that mandibles started to decelerate before they meet, possibly to avoid self-inflicted damage. Okay. So there we go. That's what we were looking for. And again, the keyword wasn't very strong there, but at some point you can just kind of skim and be like, well, and I do this a lot in the reading section without thinking about it. Generally, the organization of one of these passages is paragraph by paragraph. So you can think about, okay, what's this paragraph about? Okay, it's talking about, it's going to be an intro paragraph no matter what it is, right? This is general trap jaw ant discussion. This is all about the speed of the jaws. This is all about the popping popcorn thing, like how they jump and bounce around. So it's kind of like the biologist's initial observations. This describes the escape jump, and then this describes the bouncer jump, I guess. Yep, bouncer defense. This is the evolution of those two things, right? And again, I happen to be a little bit familiar with these, so I'm probably getting these faster than you might, but and you know, I of course should do this with a clean test, but now I've basically seen everything that I have, and primary test materials are the best, right? So, but still you can get an idea just by skimming keywords in each of these things. Okay, so the mandibles will slow down greatly, so not hinge, preventing the mandibles from snapping together, not cushioned inner edges, not a latch, they decelerate. As described in the passage, one benefit of the trap jaw ant's escape jump is that it allows an ant to, so remember, they were talking about the escape jump here. What does it allow the ant to do? Okay. Not only can the jumping ant gain height and sow confusion, but it may also get to a new vantage point from which to relaunch an attack. I skimmed down through all of this because it doesn't talk about how it helps the ant. This last sentence talks about how it helps the ant. So it gets a vantage point. So it looks exactly like this. The jump itself does not sting the predator, nor does it signal the ants because it is not predictable, and nor does it point itself in one other direction. One of the key details of this escape jump is that it just like blaps in some direction. And then finally, when a trap jaw ant uses the bounce or defense jump effectively on an intruder, which creatures, if any, will be propelled either out of the nest or in another direction. Okay, so remember I had this escape jump, this bounce or defense jump. Let's see about what gets blasted away. Propels the interloper small enough in one direction out of the nest and the ant in the other. Often the foreskin sends the ant skimming an inch off the ground for nearly a foot. Awesome. Okay, these ants sound pretty rad. So it sounds like both the ant and the intruder can be effectively knocked out of the nest here, right? The ants are flying back a foot. The intruder gets knocked out of the nest. Yeah. Cool. Okay, so again, I mean, that was, I think, even faster than my previous ones, but hopefully you guys got used to this sort of approach by the time that you watch the first 3 videos. If you haven't watched the first 3, I go through a lot slower in the first one and kind of start speeding it up as we get the drift of this. Again, I managed to do this pretty fast without reading it. And, you know, you can always consider your this kind of paragraph by paragraph marking technique, in the sense that it can be very useful to have some vague idea of like what each paragraph is about so that you know where to look. This is an advantage of skimming first for sure, but you can also pick it up if you start with the questions and go through that. So you might have noticed that I forgot a question earlier on. So this is an example of what not to do, right? And what I should have done is circled this thing before I went on. So just to show, practice makes perfect, but you do have to do the practice, right? So the primary purpose of this passage, so we've answered all the other questions at this point. Provide an overview of the mechanics and key operations of the jaws of trap ants, almost certainly. Analyze their techniques for filming. No, we didn't talk much about that. Compare Odontomachus boweri to the jaws of the other species of ants. Not at all. Describe the evolutionary of the ability of jaw ants to perform an escape jump. That was the focus of one paragraph, but it is not the main focus of this passage. So yeah, it's going to be A. All right. Learn from my mistakes, please. You know, make sure that you circle these and you mark them if you skip them. It does take a little bit more forethought, I suppose, or at least a little bit of planning. Okay, have fun, guys. Bye.